Morning. Today is Tuesday, October 13th. I'd like to call this Utilities Committee meeting to order. There's no need for Madam Clerk to call the roll, as we won't be hearing legislation today. And I'd like to mention that the following meeting being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration and will be conducted as a virtual meeting in accordance with Ohio's open meeting laws, as amended by Sub-House Bill 197. The public may observe these meetings on YouTube and on Cleveland Channel 20. For more information, go to Cleveland City Council's website. I'd like to say good morning to the director and the rest of the team that's here from Public Utilities. Today, we're going to be hearing the capital projects that CPP has worked on in the past and will be working on in the upcoming future. And before we do that, Director, we had some outages over the weekend by CPP. So we're going to ask if you could touch on the reasons for those outages and what we can do in the future to assure that something this frequent doesn't happen. So, Director?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We have our team of AD Kane, Commissioner Perry, as well as General Manager Bernie Jackson with us. I don't know if we have Rich Barton. He's been quite busy overnight doing some of these things regarding these outages. With that said, I know we had outages on Saturday, October 10th, as well as Monday, October 12th. I am going to, understanding that it was inside Metro Park Zoo, and a large limb was found across primary line, both lines. So I'm going to let either Joy Perry or Bernie Jackson or AD Kane, whichever one has the report, to kind of give us a real quick summary of what took place and what caused the outages, and then obviously what we can do to prevent them going forward. So who's going to take that? Is that going to be you, Bernie, or you, Joy?
Director, actually, Rich Barton's here, so he can take it.
Oh, then
Fine with you.
Rich,
Okay.
did you get any sleep?
2 hours. 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, from
Okay. Well,
2:38 in the morning till 4:30 this morning.
well, thank you for joining us this morning. I didn't know whether you'd be here or not, but please enlighten us.
All right. Both incidences involve the same two feeders, what we call 180A and 163A. And as you mentioned, the cause appears to be the same. On Saturday, the feeder tripped at 9:06. We rode out the feeders, tried to find out anything that was causing the problem. After an hour and a half of inspecting, we were able to re-energize the feeders, and the customers were back in service. The longest folks were out was 2 hours and 1 minute. And the feeders held. They held through Sunday and into Monday until Monday night at 11:23, when the same two feeders tripped again. We found that we wrote them out again. We found wires. The primary wires were twisted inside our service yard, and so we untwisted them and went to re-energize the feeder, and it kicked back off again. Ultimately, we found a large limb inside Metro Parks. We found that probably at about 2 in the morning, and we had a couple crews, trouble crews, go in there, take the limb. It was laying across both feeders, which would explain why both feeders tripped. And then we were able to re-energize things at 2:33 and at 2:34 in the morning. We think the same thing happened on Saturday, except that the branch probably burned in the clear. And that's why we didn't find any evidence of it on Saturday, because we looked high and low as to what it was that would have caused the outage, and there was nothing apparent. But suspectingly, the branch on Monday was probably much larger, and it stayed on the wires. And when you get a fault like that, the fault current actually causes the wires to sort of gallop and twist, and that's what twisted the primary wires together. Now, we had a couple other slight mitigating problems. We did not get alarms when all this happened on a bus tiebreaker and also on one of our 69 to 11 transformers, which we believe tripped at the same time. Had we known that, what happened was the feeder that goes into the Tremont area was on that particular bus. And so all of a sudden we started finding out that folks in Tremont were giving us a call. And when we went looking, we found that the bus tiebreaker was open and the transformer was off. We were able to get those folks back on by 12:45. So they were out only an hour and 39 minutes. Now, we had Van Kuren, the tree trimming contractor, in the zoo at the end of June. They were actually there from June 17th through June 30th, trimming trees. And we think they might not have been as aggressive as needed to, just because it's the zoo and you don't want to, you want things to look lush and green, and but that doesn't help the wire. So we're starting tomorrow. Van Kuren is going back into the zoo and making sure that nothing is hanging over the wires, and that we have even greater clearance between the limbs and the wires. And we're also having our electricians look at the breakers to see why we didn't get the alarms. Had we gotten the alarms, we might have had a shorter outage, at least for the folks in the Tremont area. So we hate when it happens back to back, but we think it is a tree issue. And like I said, tomorrow, Van Kuren will be back there, and they're going to make sure we have enough clearance between our wires and the limbs of the trees.
Okay, Rich,
And then,
go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I was just going to ask why we didn't get the alarms, and is there an issue with
Well, we don't know.
the process?
No, it's not a process. It's going to be a physical piece of equipment, either a set of contacts on the breakers or something like that. And that's what our electricians will do. We'll actually take the breaker out of service and go over it with a fine tooth comb and find out, because normally the process of an alarm is a set of contacts closed, and then the signal is sent through our SCADA system back to our power dispatcher. And they're the ones who get the information as to what tripped and when it tripped.
And if you could explain real quick, Rich, in my house, if a breaker trips, right, I just go back and I just turn the breaker on and the electricity comes back on. Can you explain that process of when you said a breaker trips,
Well,
the process of getting it turned back on? It's not probably as simple as it is in a house.
In your case, when your breaker trips, you've probably got a pretty good idea of what caused it to trip. You plugged the coffee pot in somewhere where you weren't supposed to, or you plugged in the Christmas lights or something like that. With us, we're looking at several miles of line. And so you don't want to go into the substation and turn the breaker back on, because if there's a wire that's come down and laying on the ground, you don't want to energize that wire and potentially cause harm to citizens or to equipment or things like that. So when a breaker trips, we actually ride out the entire length of the feeder looking for possible reasons why the breaker could have tripped. And so when we see a limb laying across the wires, we go, aha, we need to take that off. Or sometimes it's a car that's ran into the pole and the wires have come down, or things of that nature. So a lot of times we're aided by police and fire, who will call in and say, hey, we had an accident here or there, and that kind of points us to where to look. But you need to make sure that whatever caused the breaker to trip is cleared. Otherwise, you're just re-energizing the lines back into something that you don't even know what could be potentially either standing on top of or leaning next to or whatever. So you want to take you want to make sure everything is safe, and you want to take the proper precautions. Obviously, we want to restore power as quickly as we can to our customers, but you don't want to just go willy-nilly flipping the breakers back on in the hopes that they stay. That's why the longest time on an outage, what takes us the time is to patrol the feeder and make sure that we have either found the cause of the problem or that everything is safe. Now, sometimes you get a car or truck that'll bump a pole, and the wires will slap together, and it'll just be an intermittent thing, and they'll spread themselves apart, and you won't even be able to tell where it happened, in which case we'll have patrolled the entire feeder, assessed that it's all in safe condition, and then go ahead and close the breaker at the substation again.
Okay. Director, you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask Rich, how long was the duration of the outage before we kind of got everybody back on?
Well, the longest last night took I believe just a hair over 3 hours. The people in Tremont were off for an hour and 39 minutes because we were able to locate the bus tie breaker was open, and the transformer was off, and we were able to re-energize them, and we knew that was a separate problem over and beyond what caused the problem for the other two feeders. Normally, it takes about an hour to 2 hours. It's harder at night. Obviously, it's easier to find a hit pole than it is to find wires that are down in people's backyards or in the metro park and things like that. So the darkness takes a little longer because you're out there with flashlights and you're looking.
Okay, understood. And Mr. Chairman, to your question about what we're going to do in the future to kind of mitigate this risk, obviously we will get the electricians out there to kind of check to see what kind of failed in terms of equipment for the alarms. That's number one. And then number two, as Rich indicated, we'll get Van Kuren back out there to do some more tree trimming, because it's amazing what that can do once you can clear those lines, and then when the high winds come, they don't hit the lines and all of those type of things. So obviously we've gotten some early signs of a significant ways that we have dealt with trimming these trees, and so with the zoo, we'll take a much longer look and approach at trying to trim around those feeders there at the zoo. So those are the couple of things that we'll look at in terms of preventative maintenance, if you will.
All right, I just wanted to reiterate that the reason the power went down was not due to faulty equipment. It was due to acts of God of nature, or what it was that caused it first.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. It's not faulty equipment, although we do want to find out why we didn't get the alarms. But that wasn't why the outage happened. The outage happened because a limb fell down across some primary lines. That's what caused the outages.
Okay. And I want to get into our capital projects, but first I just want to go to our council president just to see if on the outages, if Council President Kelly has anything he'd like to say or weigh in on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only question or follow-up question I would like to ask is, understanding that this was caused by a limb that had fallen, how are we doing? I have seen less of the small-scale outages in the neighborhood as of late. Where are we? Is the Southern Transmission Line, is that? I know we talked about this last time, but until this recent spat of outages that happened over these past couple of days, things had been pretty good for a good chunk of time. What has caused that, and what still needs to be done? But the 2 to 3 block outages that I used to get, 2-3 blocks, repeatedly over the summer, that we seem to have gotten through the summer okay. What is the change in that?
Okay, to the chair, to the councilman, council president, I think it is a couple of things. Number one, the tree trimming initiatives as it relates to primary and secondary feeders. And we've done a pretty good job with that. We've looked at arresters. We've looked at all of that in terms of preventative maintenance. I think that has helped us immensely as we move forward. I will let Rich Barton chime in here on what he believes or can add to why we don't have the short kind of the short outages that we've had in the past.
Well, I think the greatest contribution that we could have had was to fund the tree trimming initiative and double our budget. We'll be looking for similar funding in next year's budget, if I may put an ad there. But you know, we continually you know,
Okay.
we just keep at it. Obviously, hit poles are hit poles, and those are hard to prevent. But
Thank you. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to go too far down something that's not on topic today. But as I said, this like had the same flavor of those small outages that I used to have. And as I said to the director in my office, a good year ago, I don't care why it's happening. I just want it to stop. So that's, I want to not think about electricity. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Council President. Real quickly on this topic, Councilman Polensek. Then I want to move into the capital projects presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up as well. I was looking at the exchange of texts between my colleagues over the weekend, and I saw how widespread the outages were. We all, as been said, we understand that, accidents, poles hit, appurtenances hit that take out sections of the system. We all understand that. But this reoccurring theme of tree limbs, trees, and we all know that our urban forest, as we want to refer to it, is under great stress due to disease and trees that have died. So in light of that fact, and we keep hearing this reoccurring thing, I believe it's just not essential to talk about doubling the tree trimming. This is so critical going into the winter months. I think you've got to figure out how to really up that game plan. Take the guys that were over in my ward butchering the trees off of Lakeshore Boulevard, take them over to the west side, okay? The ones doing the flat tops and the big V's in the tree.
I'll be at the zoo tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's exactly, and I feel sorry for the animals over there. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that this has become such a major problem in our city. We know all with the elm trees and all the other species that are under great stress and dying, and large limbs and everything. It's such a problem for us. I would say that to the administration, to the director, that you really got to figure out how to up that game plan. Maybe you bring in more than Van Kuren. Maybe you bring in somebody else as well, and to really put a full court press on addressing the tree problem and the canopy problem in our city. Because, it's one thing to have your power go out when it's 70 or 80, 75 degrees, and nothing to go out when it's below zero or close to freezing. That's a whole nother story. So I'm really hoping that the administration understands the severity of this problem, because I saw I was reading the texts. I saw the exchange. When I look how widespread those outages were, gives me great concern. We're trying to keep people in our system. We're trying to give them confidence to stay with Cleveland Public Power, and we've got to demonstrate time and time again that we get it, that the city gets it, and we're going to try to address these problems in a much more effective manner and process than we have in the past. That's all I can say. I'm concerned about the reliability, and if the tree limbs and the trees are become that big of an issue, then we got to figure out another course of action. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And I think that CPP is doing a good job of addressing that issue. And the good thing about when you trim a tree branch back is that it takes an awful long time for that tree branch to grow back to where it would be big enough to affect that wire again. So on that note, Director, we are here for our 7th of our 7-week series on capital projects. All members of council have received the presentation for today. I went through it. Again, it looks like a very good presentation. So kudos to whoever put this together. So on that note, Director, I don't know who's going to be presenting this, but we're going to move into the capital project portion of the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with your indulgence, I'd just like to piggyback and answer Councilman Polensek's his concern. And that is that we have doubled the budget as it relates to our external resources. We are looking to increase our internal tree trimming crews as well in the budget coming. And so we do understand that this is a major problem, and we do have a tree trimming initiative where we start and we get through, we start in certain wards and we continue out until such time as we get the whole city done. And so we do understand, Councilman Polenzek, that it is a major problem. We are addressing it. And we're continue to try to increase the budget with council's indulgence, as well as increase our internal crews as well, so that we can tackle this problem head on. So that's what I wanted to say with regard to that issue. And in terms of capital, Mr. Chairman, today we'll be looking at 10 to 15 years of historical capital data and improvements through 2011 through 2020, in addition to 2021 through 2025, keeping in mind that our consultant that we will be bringing on doing the condition assessment will outline our capital needs from 21 through 2025 or 2022 through 2025, because it's going to take about a year for the assessment to get done, along with positioning and prioritizing capital once this condition assessment is done, so we can understand what type of investment, capital investment, that we're going to need. In addition to looking at best practices and industry standards as it relates to replacement of aging infrastructure, so that we can continue to be viable, reliable, sustainable, and competitive going forward. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Joy Perry, and she will then take over and pass it on to whomever she needs to, unless she's doing the whole thing.
No, Director. I will be sharing with General Manager Bernie Jackson.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Now I have permission to share.
Absolutely.
Permission to share the screen, my presentation. Have they given me that at City Council?
Yes, you still have it.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just a second. I want to show it as a slideshow. Thank you. Capital projects includes land, improvement to the land, easement, buildings, building improvements, vehicles, mechanic equipment, infrastructure, tangible and intangible assets. That's capital projects. Cleveland Public Power, as you will see as I present, capital projects may cover several years before they are completed. On our infrastructure, we have what I call R to the third degree. We test, our core philosophy is to test if the one R is reliable, redundant, and relief. That's what our core philosophy have been for these capital projects over the last 10 to 20 years. I will first discuss the fiscal cost and demonstrate what each one of those projects costs for us to complete. As you can see, and this is the infrastructure section of the capital projects, the new Lake Road project, Lake Road North. Lake Road North is a new substation that was built. And if we started that project, and as you can see, the total cost is about $21.9 million. But is allocated over several years, depending on how we are in the project and how many years it takes to complete that. What was the benefit of the Lake Road? Its new cable was pulled, and it increased the capacity to our 11th Street substation. It assured that the Midtown South Marginal substation was increased. It also increased the 138 kV transformer at the Collingwood substation. So that was, if you look at that, reliability, redundancy, and relief of the system that new substation did. As we also have been talking about, you see the Southern Transmission Line. And the years between 2011 and 15, that's what I'm covering now. 2011 and 15, 11 and 12, we did not have any money allocated and did not begin. But as the project began, you can see we from that time period, we probably spent a little less than $1 million. Now the Southern Transmission Line, we've had a great deal of discussion on that. It's a loop from Ridge Road Substation to Pofolk Substation, and this substation will have redundancy. And the redundancy is critical because if anything happened, we will not lose customer. I think in previous discussions, line number 2 through 12, and you see transformers, ATO switches, you see this is our general, we must use these all for our everyday business. We spent on that a little shy of $4 million in that time period. ATO switches and transformer are used for maintenance and maintaining the system throughout our entire system. Then we began, when we had the Southern Transmission Line, there is a marriage between the Southern Transmission Line and Denison Road. Denison Road project in 2014, a little less than 4.5 million. Total we spent in those 2 years in that period was about $6.6 million. And the Denison Road is the underground portion of the transmission to the Southern Transmission Line. Then we have our third interconnection, which is at the Pofolk substation, and we began to connect there, and we started in 2011. Some of these projects are dependent on the other part of the project being done, and we completed that by 2014. So now when we joined the 2 substations, the Southern Transmission Line from the Pofolk to the Ridge substation, the third interconnection will be totally satisfied. And that's about $4.1 million. When you pole replacements, that's constant to our business. We buy our poles and we replace the poles as needed, or as for safety. People hit our poles, so we have to spend money for replacing our poles for various reasons. So pole replacement is what you would call our operation expenses every day to run our business. East Bank of the Flats. These are East Bank of the Flats is adding new customer load, infrastructure that we need to add new customers load, and that benefited us with the Ernst & Young building, the Loft Hotel, in the renovation of Public Square. We put new transformers in. When we take the opportunity, anytime a street is open, to upgrade our system, and that minimizes the cost and that's the reliability portion of our philosophy. We take the opportunity, if they're doing renovation and the street is open, to upgrade our vaults and put new transformers in those areas. Underground projects, that's for new customers. We use our underground, and that's our anytime that we have new customers that a portion of their lines must be run on underground. And you see that's how we did that expense. The East 9th Street Bank, Duck Bank, about $2 million. That East 9th is the new buildings at Vonovich Park. And we're also have already, because we were there for the new buildings, there will be a project that we are working on, but has not started. That would be behind the stadium. Whenever that project began, we have already built the lines there for that. West 41st Street Breakers, a 138 auto transformer. You will see a picture of that the auto transformer. Mr. Jackson will show you all about the West 41st Street auto transformer. I think the reliability, I would say, is probably the most important on this. You see the new breakers for the 138 kV. The auto transformer is for the redundancy. So that means if we lose something, we have something, we can shift it to somewhere else. So the auto transformer is very important there. Opportunity corridor. Why you see note that we knew that project was coming, but we did not allocate any money in those years because the project hadn't started. So you'll see them listed, but we haven't started the project in the years between 11 to 15. That's another opportunity. When the streets are open and when we have an opportunity, we upgrade our system then. So that way we can get relief on our system, build the redundancy of our system and the reliability at the same time. That's efficiencies and in collaborations with any of the other utilities that are in that area. There's the next one would be the Lake Road transmission, Lake Road transformer. Now we have Lake Road has a Lake Road North and the original Lake Road substation. Rich Barton did a great deal of a good job of explaining this to me because I said, well, we have Lake Road, but what this was the original substation and it improved the redundancy that we needed to the south of the marginal substation. Then you have the duct banks that happen and when the road is open on the Marquette. That's another reliability for us to upgrade. And then you have LED projects that occurred. You have the other projects that we had was East 79th Street Bridge, East 22nd Street, Scranton Road, Pearl Road, and the Cultural Gardens. Any of those projects, when they're it allows us to pick up customers along the way and upgrade our system. So when we're in those areas, we're able to upgrade our system to increase our reliability and also establish new customers while we're there. As you can see, these same projects are repeated for the next from 16 to 20. I mentioned earlier, it may take multiple years before we can complete the project. As you can see, the Southern Transmission Line is there. Lake Road was completed, and we only spent a small amount on the Lake Road between from 16 to 20. Southern Transmission Line, we continue to work on that project, which we're scheduled to complete this year at the end of the fourth quarter. And we also have the same projects and that I have listed before. So that's why I said any of our projects will take multiple years before they're completed. Other projects are opportunities driven by customers' need. Professional service. Professional service that we have, that's the second part of our capital. The professional service from 2011 is a little less than $2.5 million. This is for our contractor and engineering services. The professional service that we have is for large scale design that we are not able to design, so we have a third party do the designing for those type of professional service, engineering services. As you can see, the LED program, we were aware of the LED program. We had a program manager to lead that, and that was in 2011. We knew we were allocating it. Building betterment. Part of the capital project is to improve our buildings and to better our buildings. Roofing. While we're fully aware that our Lake Road substation has 9 roofs, and that building is probably close to 100 years old. So it's deteriorated and we've had to replace the roof. So you'll see roofing, and not only that, our substations have roofs. So you see roofing projects and building betterment. You'll see facilities improvement. When you see the large amount of money the spend and the facilities improvements, that's when we put in our mechanic station. Our mechanic station, we did not have enough room in our old mechanic station at West 41st Street to be able to complete our vehicles, to prepare our vehicles. We probably could get maybe 2 in now with the new mechanic station, which is a steel type structure. We're able to repair and have our vehicles back on the road as soon as possible. And we also spent a larger money on our warehousing. A lot of our warehouse was small and our equipment was outside, exposed to the element, and that means it would deteriorate faster, and we were not able, and this would eliminate us having to purchase more equipment because of weather and deterioration. Security improvement, well, of course, we have to have security improvement, and particularly in our service centers, because so many people love cable wires and would not mind coming in and getting those cable wires and selling them. So we have cameras and any type of security facilities. The city, the computer hardware and software, you'll see that repeated throughout our all of our capital projects. We went to a 800 megahertz radio system. We also went to technology and new allocation for technology, and our AVL system. You see, that started in 2014. AVL is probably one of the most efficient way for us to identify where our vehicles are, to efficiently move our vehicles to a location if needed at any given time. So the AVL also let us know how long it takes to do a job, if we standardize what jobs that we are using. But it's an excellent system to move vehicles and allocate them to the right places without having someone drive from the northeast side all the way to the west side. We know where our vehicles locations are. Then vehicles and equipment. We have bucket trucks, a fleet that we must maintain. And many of our fleets over the years have deteriorated. Some of the fleets and equipment was just not safe. So we have bought bucket trucks, we have bought diggers, we have bought equipment so we can respond in a timely manner without vehicles being broken and needing repairs. And some of the repairs we can't even get anymore on the vehicles. You'll see this same, as I described, repeated and allocated over the years for the roofing. You see it where you see a large amount of money spent on the roofing. That also in 2016, I'm going to tell you in 2016, the roofing, that was a large amount, 1.7 million between 16 and 20. You will find that those roofings is when we were having to work on the Lake Road roofing system. And you see we allocated our allocation for vehicles. Our engineering services, as you see the total amount as we carry from there, has been over that time period, 20 has been 13.3 million grand total. And those are the grand totals, but this consistently the same throughout all of our capital projects. The theme is the same: reliability, redundancy, and relief. Maintain our equipment, maintain our facilities, and the safety of our employees with decent vehicles. Where are we going? We're going to continue to finish the Southern Transmission Line for the 2021 to 2025. We're going to complete the Southern Transmission Line. We're going to replace the steel pole. We're going to look at our metering system. Our metering system is the most important communication device we have with our customers. We're going to upgrade our metering system. Although we read 99.8% of our meters, now people are asking for smarter meters, for them to have a way to communicate. So we're going to look from going from an AMR system to an AI system, where people can have their data in real time and communicate. Underground projects, we allocate that for any new projects that come, customer driven or even projects that we will have in the future. We allocate that for the next 5 years from to about $6 million. We're also planning for expansion in the North Coast, the North Coast expansion. We've allocated funds for that project. However, we are waiting for that project to happen. So these funds have been allocated, we have not spent. Scranton Road, there's continuous, we're aware that there's some road work that needs to be done, small scale road work. We will be working with them when that opportunity comes for us to upgrade our system. As I said before, part of our business, our core business, is transformers and ATO switches. We must have them in order to operate every day. So that's what I would call operating maintenance. So that's why they're allocated over the years, and for new projects that we know that will be coming on. That's why in 21 you see it higher than the other years allocated for the next years out. Substation, we will maintain our substation and any bridge lighting. One thing that the director has spoken about, because we're going to be doing an assessment, our infrastructure may change from what we're projecting today. Once we have an assessment, we will know in our infrastructure and at our substation of a capacity of our system. So this, although we have forecasts for the next 5 years, it may change due to what we find in the very near future. You'll see the same thing that we do with our building and betterments in our facilities and our improvement. We allocate what we will need. As you can see in 22 and 23, why are the numbers higher in 22 and 23 is the East Side Service Center. I think that we have talked about the movement of the East Side Service Center. So we're preparing as forecasting for that movement to take place in our facilities. We have we also have funded in case there's small leaks at the Lake Road facilities roofing. There's 9 roofs. We have not completed all 9 roofs. There's some small scale areas that we will complete. One of very critical portion that we are funding is our new SCADA system. I think the conversation began today talking about why didn't we hear the alarms? What was the system? The new SCADA system will address that and upgrade the system. This is one of the best communications device we have. It'll automatically identify where is the outage, and it also we will save probably time, as Rich described, 1.5 hours, a large percentage of our time is driving up our feeders. With the new SCADA system, this will eliminate that, and our restoration for service will be completed in a timely manner. SCADA does one thing by closing switches and telling you. The next partnership with that is an outage management system. That outage management system takes it to the house. We can then say with the new outage management, we have 5 houses in this area. We have 10 in that area. We will be able to count where the houses are and identify the customer with the outage management system. We will continue to add new technology as we move along, upgrading our technology, giving our field representatives the proper technologies to relay information back, and that's why we have technology allocated as a capital project. The GIS system, our mapping system, I think some of you have seen our maps. Our maps are very, very large, 3-page bindings. We are now capturing that and we are putting it in an electronic system or in a system where we can absolutely know where every pole is, where every asset is. So that's why we've allocated money for a GIS system. Vehicles is constant. We have an aging fleet and we will continue to purchase to keep our fleet operating from aging and be able to have It's nothing worse than an outage to have a broke down dump truck. With that being said, capital projects allow us to be small enough to care and big enough to compete. With that being said, Mr. Jackson will take you to the next part. Here.
Thank you, Joy.
Good morning. Good afternoon. The first slide you see, this is just showing our southern transmission line. In red, it shows how we will totally complete our loop where we're able to feed. If one section goes out, we're able to feed in any direction from that point in time. That will most definitely secure up any outages like we had a few years ago, the west side, and things of that nature. These are a few tasks that had to be completed in order to build the southern transmission line. On the left hand, you'll see is the cable that they had to put underground for that section of Denison. The top right, we had to have like 55 pole bases, 90 pole bases built and 95 structures erected. This southern transmission line is actually 9 miles total with 6.4 miles of overhead cabling and 2.5 miles of underground cable. Our next slide is, that's our West 41st auto transformer. It's redundant powering and it increases our reliability. Prior to installing this, we had to have oil samples taken. We had to remove whatever rubble that could not be reused, any shale. The base had to be constructed. The auto transformer was then placed, as you see, the big crane on the right-hand side, placed it on the pad. Then it was filled up with a tanker full of oil. Our next steps for the auto transformer is we have to get other structures, which we're going to pre-bid for next week. And our wiring for our relays and the final tie-in of the bus, along with new doors for the existing substation. I mentioned in the last slide, relays. This is a picture of how the West 41st substation looks now. It will be updated with new Schweitzer relays and controls. So these actual doors, like on the right-hand side, they will take it off, have it re-engineered, and then they'll be replaced for to accommodate the auto transformer. Our Q107 line, transmission line, which is better known as the pipe type cable that we had leaking under I-90 over by Lake Road substation. With this project, since it was leaking, we end up having to come up with a design to take it overhead. So on the south side of I-90, we end up having a station and support structures put there where the pipe type cable can come up and then transition to an overhead line, run to the north side, and then it go down that structure into the new cabling. Here's a few pictures. As you see in the middle one, that's the new duct bank that was built over on the Lake Road side on the north end. To the picture to the left is showing how they actually had to pull a new cable in And over on the right is the new solid cable that's not oil filled. So anything happens to it, it actually costs us less to have it repaired than it would type cable. Commissioner spoke about the Lake Road North substation. This is a picture of it. It's actually just north of our existing. It's over by the yacht club. And with this substation, it gave some relief to the existing Lake Road sub. It also increased the capacity at 11th Street sub by 50%. And it actually gave us, I do believe, 6 additional 11 kV feeders, 2 in which we were taking downtown, getting ready for that one project that's over by East 9th, and then other projects that will go to the south. This is a slide is of our new West 41st storeroom. It's a steel building. As you can see in the slides, it's a very large building, so we have plenty of head space and shelf space. We can store larger items that we used to have to store outside in containers. Now they're inside, out of the elements. They're not in the risk of being hit or damaged. So that reduces our losses that we have had previously with new equipment sitting outside. This slide is showing our West 41st Mechanics Garage. As you see, it's a large building also. On the right-hand side, you'll see there's a digger derrick. And you see you have plenty of head space to lift up the boom. Our mechanics garage prior, we can only pull in 2 of these heavy vehicles at a time and work on them. Now we're able to bring at least 6 vehicles, if not more, that's heavy, and still work on medium-sized vehicles and light vehicles also. This building also has a conference room for the West 41st Street so that they have a updated conference room. It has a male and female restroom with showers. It houses the cable department and also the switching department. We also have washer and dryer in here. And this is for the cable splicers because we don't want them contaminating their family with lead. Sometimes they have to do lead splices, so they will wash their uniforms. That's the purpose of the showers and the washers, so they won't contaminate anything at home. Here's a few of our new vehicles. Up top, that is our tandem dump truck. We didn't have a tandem at first. We just had a regular single axle dump. With this tandem, we can haul away twice as much rubble. And with that, it's less trips to the dump, less downtime, and less fuel usage because you're minimizing the runs back and forth. It's our mini excavator on the bottom. We normally use case backhoes. With this, it's a smaller footprint in certain areas, like mainly when we're working downtown, but it still has a long reach as a backhoe. It's actually has a longer reach than a case backhoe that we had previous. This increases our efficiency and help with safety issues because you have less vehicles swinging in congested areas. Prior to this presentation, we were talking about transformers, and I'm going to show you that all green boxes aren't the same that you see throughout the city. On the left side is a substation type transformer. If you notice, the connections are up on the top. We use this for customer vaults so that their wiring can come over the top and connect. Nothing's, no tripping hazards or anything inside of a vault. And so that's on the inside. Whereas the one on the right-hand side, the pad mount transformer, is one that you usually see in any development. It's fed from up under, the cables come from up under, it's lockable. You never have to worry about anyone getting inside of it. These two pictures are showing a side view and a front view of a ATO. The purpose of the ATO, it gives two feeds to our customers. So if one feed goes out, it'll automatically switch over to the other feed. Majority of the time, the customer wouldn't even know anything happened. They might just have the lights blink and everything come back on. The purpose of this is for reliability. Then we have a VFI switch. You'll see these down by the Cleveland Browns Stadium, East Bank of the Flats. It's similar to an ATO. You can bring multiple feeds in, but you also send multiple feeds out also. The footprint is much smaller than an ATO switch. At this time, do we have any questions?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions on things that were touched on. Director, the condition assessment that's you spoke about right at the beginning of the presentation, are they on board yet, or is that process started?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to yield to AD Kane. I believe that selection process, it's been bid, RFP's gone out. I'm not sure if we selected as of yet, AD.
That's correct, Director, and to the Chairman, there has been a preferred vendor identified through the selection process. There are a couple of items to be ironed out, including this afternoon, and very soon we will be under contract.
And then Director or AD Kane, you guys are anticipating that to even still take a 12 to 18 months to complete, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Chairman, and the number of the potential vendors were on site in July, and then ultimately the one that is preferred has identified a timeline, but our kickoff meeting, we're hoping to be the 1st of November to get deliverables when we can expect their first task order complete, reported out, so on and so forth. But it's at least 12 months for the breadth of the information that we're seeking.
Right. So depending on that condition assessment could really alter the plans going forward for 2021 or 2 to 2025. See, we got the estimate of it today, but depending on that, it really could, those numbers really could change.
That's correct, Chairman. And what we're really, and if I could, and Commissioner Perry did a great job going through, but if you run slides 3, 4, 5, and 6 horizontally, that would give you the 10 years that you asked for last week with the grand total for the last 10 years. And then when you look forward 2021 to 2025, those are simply the items that we know are necessary to keep our fleet running, to keep the transformers on available for switching out. But anything identified by this assessment, we will have to identify funding for. And again, the task is not only immediate or within 5 years, but as long as 10 years for a capital improvement.
All right. The opportunity corridor, is that CPP service area? Well, when that whole new complex is built over there, will that be powered by CPP? The new police headquarters and whatever else ends up over there? I know she mentioned opportunity corridor when they start building it, opening the streets.
Yeah, that's currently within our service. It's currently within our service area, or Chairman.
Okay. And then real briefly, the building betterment from 2011 to 2015 was less than $2 million. And then over the course of 10 years, it was only at $10 million. If I was looking at it correctly. And building betterment, I'm going to take into consideration that that is our actual physical structures, keeping everything together. And I know that we have the new building over on 41st that was spoken about, which keeps it's taken a lot of things from outside to inside. Are we underestimating our building betterment going forward?
Yeah, under the chair or the directors, we have been conservative in our building betterment capital spending as we embark on the facility assessment. A lot of that historical funding were for the roofs at Lake Road. We needed to make them safe and dry in order to remediate some of the things that were inside.
Okay. And for 21 to 25, transformers, ATOs, and VFIs, can you explain real quick, transformers, ATOs, VFIs, those are the structures that keep the electricity going, correct? That's what keeps feeding the electricity through and providing it to our customers.
Yes, that's correct, Chairman. And as Bernie, Mr. Jackson went through, some of those are identified in the photos with the transformers, the ATOs, and the VFIs on pages 20, 21, and 22. That's just a recurring expense that we know that we have to do on an annual basis. Those take a tremendous amount of wear and tear. Some of them are out in, get hit by vehicles, et cetera, that need to be replaced on a regular basis. So that's just a standard capital investment that we know we're going to have to make on an annual basis.
All right, and it looks like we spend roughly $1 million a year maintaining those or replacing parts and pieces. If I'm looking at it correctly, there's 4.1 mil allocated for 21 to 25, and then find the other one. What was spent from 2011 to 2015? Yeah. On our ATOs and everything.
A lot of those through the chairman of the committee would have been identified in those specific projects. As far as the computer,
Because I don't see from 2011 to 2015, I don't see that, and then it pops up in.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of labeling, but we've always bought those. I don't know,
Okay.
Commissioner, if you.
We're doing a good job of maintaining our transformers, ATOs, and VFIs, and we have been, because I would assume when there's an outage, those are the things that we look at first.
To the chairman, I'm looking at slide number 3, and I'm seeing from 2011 to 2015, the ATOs and transformers that are there, we've spent almost $4 million on them. Page 3 of the slide.
Oh, the third line down. You're right.
So, yes.
All right. I was just, okay, so in the, I see how you guys presented that one, okay. So 231,781,000 since 2011 on capital projects, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Before we open it up to questions from my colleagues, again, I will give consideration to our council president. He's still with us. He's still with us. No, okay. Councilman Michael Polensek.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the administration, appreciate the information that's been provided. And I want to say, as always, I want to thank Acting Commissioner Perry and Assistant Commissioner Barton for always getting back to me when I place a call or concern to them. And I want to say that again, I appreciate that always. With regard to the overall infrastructure, but before I stop, I just want to jump back at something. The 1.712 million that was spent on Public Square, what was that for in 2015?
To the chair, to the councilman, and that was an opportunity for us to open our vaults, replace old transformers that we have, and improve our infrastructure that was in the public square. As you know, the public square, you don't have an opportunity too often when roads are open to upgrade your system. So that's what we did. That money was spent for the upgrade of our system and new transformers, improve our vaults, relocate. We service now every quadrant of the public square with the exception of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument because of our upgrading.
So that was in connection, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Perry, that was in connection with the renovation of Public Square, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to understand that. On the issue of the LED, looking for the page here. Find it, Helen. On page 7, Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, an LED bridge lighting. Is that for decorative lighting, or is that for the lighting that goes under bridges? I know I have I-90 and I have obviously railroad bridges and other appurtenances where there's lighting that is the responsibility of CPP. Can you give us a little broader explanation what that is for?
Director?
Commissioner Perry?
Here to the councilman, that is for the decorative lighting along the bridges.
That's decorative lighting.
Yes.
That's so the lighting that's under I-90, that's under 71, under railroad bridges, et cetera, that is not included. Where would that be? Would that be under regular maintenance or what?
To the chairman, to the councilman, yes, that would be under regular maintenance.
Okay, then the overall condition of what I want to refer to as the CPP system, to the director and whoever can answer, because you have a lot of projects listed here, both that were done in the past and now as a proposed from 2021 forward, or this year forward, excuse me, to 2025. Who do we use to, as a consultant or engineering firm, to suggest, yeah, this is what you need to do, or you need to do something differently? Who do we utilize in that capacity?
Director, Commissioner?
Commissioner?
To the councilman, to the chair, to the councilman, we have been using Midall in the past for our general engineering for the large scale projects.
Okay, so and I'm not familiar with the firm because I'm, as I've stated before, I'm concerned about reliability. I'm concerned about the overall health of the system. You have mentioned in the course of your presentation the condition of the rolling fleet. The fleet was not in bad shape or needed to be substantially improved. And it goes back, I guess, to my original comments about some of the purchase power agreements we got into. What I thought to be very bad recommendations, and obviously somebody recommended to the administration, or some outside, allegedly some consultant advised the city as it pertains to purchase power agreements. And we all know now those were not good. And as I stated publicly at the time, I'll continue to say it, that I think the council was greatly misled and given bad information. So I want to be assured by the director and the folks that are running Clean Public Power that as it pertains to infrastructure, as it pertains to building betterment, computer hardware, software, vehicles and equipment, all the other issues that we need to do, you know, professional services, infrastructure, you name it, computer hardware. I want to be assured that who's ever advising us, who's ever suggesting this is what needs to be fixed, this is what needs to be repaired, this is what you need to do, that it's the right stuff that we need to be doing, because we're in a very competitive environment, as we know. You know, we are at a point now where our rates are higher for residential customers than First Energy, and I'm doing everything I can, as I have in the past, to support Cleveland Public Power and to encourage people to become customers of Cleveland Public Power. But reliability and the overall condition of this system is of great concern to me, having the largest customer base in the city within the greater Collinwood, East Glenville area. So can the director comment on that we are getting good advice, that we're getting the proper recommendations as we go forward, so that we don't find ourselves in the situations that we have found ourselves in the past?
Yeah.
Director?
Thank you to the chair, to the councilman. There's several initiatives that we put in place to kind of do our due diligence where this is concerned. Number one is our oversight committee. The oversight committee that we have put together looks at power purchase agreements, looks at our capital funding, looks at a number of different things. Yes, we do rely on consultants to advise us on certain things. And then keeping in mind that we have our own internal staff that does their own due diligence where this is concerned, Rich Barton and Bernie Jackson and others who've been around for a very long time that understands the system and how the system works. So the oversight committee, coupled with consultants, coupled with our internal staff, we understand going forward what is needed. And this condition assessment is just a start of us getting a clear understanding of what our system needs going forward in terms of its condition, so that we can rate our system. And right now, you know, this is probably the first of its kind that's been done. And so with that being said, I think we'll have a really, really good understanding of what we need to do going forward. But in terms of just regular capital and maintenance and things like that, we have our internal staff does a pretty good job of saying, hey, what we need to keep this system operating right now. And then obviously in the future, there's major investments that need to be done. And I do want to point out that when you look at the capital budget for 21 through 25, and I'm kind of just going to throw out 2021 because it's probably going to take a year to do the condition assessment. But if you look at that going forward, this capital 5-year capital plan is based on a rate structure that we have in place today. Okay, so so this is, if we wanted to do more, we probably wouldn't be able to. This is certainly a rate structure that we have in place today. And once we do the condition assessment, we'll know better. And then we would probably need to put a rate in place to support that capital investment going forward. So to answer your question, Councilman Polenzek, we have learned from some things in the past. We've had Mid-Isle and some others, and I think that with the industry standard, best practices, and everything we've looked at, we have a pretty good idea of who in the industry understands this electric business.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman and my honorable colleagues, again, to the director, I appreciate his response because, again, I'm not aware of anybody on city council that's an electrical engineer. And I don't believe there's ever been anyone on city council that's been an electrical engineer. So we are dependent upon the administration to give us the right information. And as I've said so many times in the past, I don't care if it's good news or bad news, as long as it's the straight news. and accurate and factual, not only can this council, and I believe the body collectively can deal with it. But so often in the past, we were not given the right information. We were given misleading information. We were not given an entire picture of the status and the condition of the system. And I don't put that on you, because you didn't make those bad decisions. You came in after those bad decisions were made. So the fact of the matter is, there were bad decisions. There were things that were not done. And as we go forward throughout the remainder of this year and through 21 through 25, we've got to make sound and responsible decisions that are going to keep this system stable, provide the kind of service that our citizens and our businesses need. And, what's more important than power and water to citizens? There isn't anything. I mean, we've got to be able to provide that with the best possible service and equipment that we can provide. So, Mr. Chairman, on that note, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, your methodical approach to looking at the system over these past several weeks, well, many weeks now. And it's important for the body collectively to really stay on top of Cleveland Public Power. It's a critical utility for our citizens and our businesses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councilman Klensick. Director Davis, just to follow up on something that you mentioned, when was that oversight committee established?
We have the internal oversight committee probably around the time that AD Kane came. I think, when was that? November? What was the time frame?
It was the middle of 2019.
Yeah,
was when the oversight committee was instituted. And then,
that's about when it was formed.
correct.
And AD sits on it, myself, Chief Brown, our fiscal officer, and others. So we wanted to make sure that going forward that we had the checks and balances that we needed kind of going forward, especially when it comes to power purchase agreements and other things that we have a certain set of eyes looking at it before we actually implement or construct anything. Doing a cost benefit analysis as well as return on the investment, all those things have to be looked at before we actually sign off on these things.
So this is something that's relatively new, a new aspect to Cleveland Public Power. Now, does this oversight committee just doing Cleveland Public Power? Or are they doing water and sewer as well?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
The oversight committee that was established, are they just overseeing CPP, or are they overseeing all of the utilities?
No, this is just CPP. This is
Okay.
Specific to CPP.
Okay. All right. Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I'm still doing some research. Can you put me back on? Put me behind someone else.
I only have one more person on the list, so.
I'll come behind.
All right. Councilman Kerry McCormick. Councilman, you have to unmute yourself, please.
All right, I'm sorry, but am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you putting me on the list there in this conversation as well. Chair, again, it was a thorough presentation. I'm curious about the thought around renewable energy resources when we think about the assessment, the facilities assessment as we move forward. How are we factoring in diversifying our renewable sources into this assessment as we move forward? Chair to the director.
Yeah, to the councilman, as I indicated before, we are looking at renewable energy as it relates to more solar at this particular time. And we will factor in during the assessment and during our meetings going forward with sustainability as it relates to renewable energy and trying to meet that goal of 25% by 2025, with the understanding that there is some cost associated if we need to put infrastructure in. All of those things will have to be looked at as we go forward. But I think the first thing that we want to do is understand our current system and how it's currently working and the condition that it's in, and then we can expand upon that. But we've always had our eyes on renewable energy and understanding that we have a very diverse portfolio, and we're going to try to expand on that. But all things are being considered as we look at a holistic approach on over the system, as well as the energy that we go to the market for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCormick. Going back to Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Davis, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership for putting together the series talking about various aspects of Cleveland Public Power. And certainly want to thank Joy Perry, who has been here with us for quite some time. Really appreciate her knowledge base, her wisdom about the system, and her capacity to be able to give us a little bit of enlightenment about how our utility works. As we went through the capital projects this morning, a lot of the questions I initially asked was eloquently asked by Mike Polensek. What I would like to know, Mr. Chairman, to the director, you talked about the Southern Transmission System, and wanted to know with that new Southern Transmission line being, under construction, when is the completion of that Southern line? And then what is the capacity that, and how many new customers will we be able to bring on with that addition?
Director.
To the chair, to the councilman, we look to have the Southern Transmission line on the fourth quarter of this year. So that should be on around the fourth quarter. The purpose of that is to give us redundancy, loop the system, and so that we have that redundancy that we need for looping the system east to west. In terms of the customer base that we can bring on, I don't have that answer right now, Councilman, but we can look at that kind of going forward. I know the purpose of this was redundancy and reliability more so than the addition of customers, although it may give us additional customers based on the capacity. And so once we understand that, but we would have to obviously look at how many customers we could bring on. We'd have to do a survey. We'd have to see what we can do in terms of doing a cost benefit analysis on if we have to run more infrastructure to get more customers, all of those things. But the primary reason for the Southern Transmission Line at this particular time is reliability and redundancy and looping of the system so that we can reduce our outages. That's number one. But if we can gain customers along the way, we'll certainly look at that.
Let's see. And Mr. Chairman, I want to request that if the director can give us a general outlay on just how many customers we're going to reach in terms of our residential customers and our commercial customers when that line comes on play.
Okay, go ahead, Director.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I believe that the whole.
We don't know that just yet. And so
okay, I know at some point you will. So when you do, it would be good to have that information.
Okay, absolutely.
So yeah. Mr. Chairman, to the director, we on the last session we talked about the state of purchase power, and I know that my colleague talked about it too, and we requested from the director to get a list of those agreements and and for which we had made some kind of investment into those locations. For an example, we made an investment into AMP. Do we know how much, did we get that information back, Mr. Chairman, to the director on those facilities we invested in?
Yeah, to the chair, to the councilman, we're still gathering that information as we speak. I know that AD Kane and CPP leadership has been looking at that and trying to gather the information that is requested. It is a lot of information. And so we're still, I think I said a couple of weeks that it would take us to put that together. And so we're still working on that. And as soon as we know that, we'll reach out to the chairman to let him know that we have accomplished that task.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, I believe, I want to say this is 17, I'm not sure, facilities that we have agreements with. Did we invest in all of those facilities?
Repeat the question, Councilman.
I have a list that was given to me for Cleveland Public Power purchase contracts. There's actually 15 purchase power contracts that we have here currently with us. Did we invest into all of these facilities where we hold contracts at?
I don't have that in front of me. And I don't know if you're talking about an ownership stake, Councilman, in percentage wise of each of those?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have that answer. And I don't have that information in front of me right now. I know there's some that we do, but I don't know if all of them. There is some ownership percentage. I would have to look at that. That really wasn't a topic of our conversation today.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Hang on, Councilman. We're not done having the hearings on our contracts with AMP yet. But today we're going over the capital projects too. Do you have any? So we will be having at least one more hearing on the contracts that we have with that CPP has out. But that was 2 weeks ago. That was the topic then. So do you have any other questions regarding capital projects?
No, Mr. Chairman, that was, I wanted to know a little bit about the expansion, and the director was capable and he answered it. So on the issue of the discussion of what we're talking about today, that was it. I figured that I was the last one, so I wanted to find out if we had gotten that information. And unless there's some others behind me, will we have miscellaneous where I could ask more questions concerning this? Or if not, I'll yield until the chair feels.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely plan on having at least one more hearing on our contracts. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield until that time.
On that, Director, do we have any more questions, or do you have any more comments regarding CPP? This is going to conclude our series of 7.
Yeah, I would just like to close, Mr. Chairman, by saying that while we're here today and the number of committee hearings that we've had is an effort for us to be transparent. And so going forward, and to Councilman Polenzic's point and everybody else, the council members, that we're at this point with CPP, we are at a crossroads. There's decisions that need to be made. We understand how critical those decisions are, but we do want to be transparent so that you really understand what is going on with the system as a whole. And when we come to you with certain needs or requests, that you do understand that we are transparent and that there's nothing to hide. All of this information is an opportunity for us to do outreach and educate council as much as we can on the system, and know that we are doing our best to try to keep this system operating and maintain the system by doing certain capital improvements, as well as keeping a debt ratio, as well as keeping certain cash on hand to our bond rate, to our bond raters are able to give us some interest rates that are favorable to us. And so we all want the same thing, and we'll continue to be transparent. some of the things that we're talking about, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to tree trimming and the SCADA system and the outage management and technology and GIS, these are things that are coming. And these are things that I think is going to, once we get the core issues out of the way, transformers, substation, pipe type cable, all those things out of the way, then we can focus on the technology side, and that will prevent outages going forward. So I welcome the hearings, and it gives us an opportunity to be transparent, Mr. Chairman. I thank you.
Well, and I don't think anybody on, I guess you would say this side of the Zoom, we usually say this side of the table, but on this side of the Zoom would disagree with you. And I think these hearings have been very educational for a lot of individuals who may not understand the complexity of CPP. But I do want to let you know that, moving forward, that myself and the rest of the committee, are going to keep a keen eye on CPP. And I know we have a lot of legislation in the box that we need to get to, but before we pass any legislation, I want to make sure that all the members understand what's going on, understand what we're passing, why we need to pass everything, and we're here to help CPP, because in the long run, everybody here wants CPP to be successful and here for at least another 120 years or so. So with that being said, I know we do have a lot of legislation in the box. I'll work with AD Kane to set something up for our next hearing to be for the purpose of passing or going over the legislation. So if nobody else has anything else, we're going to adjourn this meeting until the call of the chair. Thanks, everybody, for participating.
Thank you.